Hello, everybody. Good morning. It's Dr. Rayford Vet Triage, August 27, 8:29 a.m. Pacific time. Let's talk about veterinary radiologists. I think a lot of pet owners don't know that they exist, don't know what the function would be anyway, how they would help them, all that stuff. So let's talk about it. The reason why I'm bringing this topic up is because we've had over the past probably decade now a real problem in the field with regards to having enough veterinary radiologists to go around. And veterinary radiologists are veterinarians that are board certified in radiology. They don't just read x-rays, they also read computed tomography, which is CT or CAT scan, magnetic resonance imaging or MRI, and a whole bunch of other different diagnostics. And some of the radiologists are what we call interventional radiologists that actually perform medical procedures on animals as well. Most radiologists, the classical type of radiologists, are usually remotely located somewhere, and they get a whole bunch of x-rays and MRIs and CAT scans in, and they read them off. They interpret them, and then they create a report, and then they send the report back to the veterinary facility that sent them the images. And so most radiologists are in their own, office or whatever, at home or whatever, because now everything's digital. You don't have to have film for the MRIs, CAT scans, and radiographs, and so they can do their job from anywhere. As long as they have internet or whatever, they can just do it. So the interventional radiologists are actually in person. They will actually perform procedures, which is very cool. It's been an up-and-coming field category in the field of veterinary medicine for several years now. And there are certain facilities in the U.S. that have been spearheading that movement. So that's pretty cool. It's always good to see more minimally invasive stuff in the field. So anyway, so the whole point behind veterinary radiologists is to interpret diagnostics. And typically the most common purpose in the vet field is to get a specialist's viewpoint on what the image is showing. So your veterinarian, who's not a board certified radiologist, will take some x-rays for your pet, look at them themselves, give you an idea of what they think, and then they will, if they need to, they'll get a second opinion with the board certified radiologist, digitally, virtually, remotely, whatever, and then get the report back and then report to the pet owner what the radiologist thinks. And the radiologist may agree, disagree, have recommendations, whatever. But that's why your family veterinarian is accessing them, because they have the experience and board certification to look at these images at far greater detail with more experience than the general practitioner would. Having said that, of course, radiologists are still people and they can still make mistakes. So there are plenty of general practitioners as well as other board certified specialists in the vet field that can look at radiographs themselves, make a decision, and they can use the radiologist report as sort of a adjunctive tool, but not the end-all be-all, because they may not agree with everything the radiologist says. And there are many times where I'd call up a radiologist and say, "Hey, I noticed this. You didn't mention it in your report. What do you think?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, all right, I'll amend the report." Or they have some wild conclusion that I just don't agree with because it doesn't make sense with the pet, and ask them to send an amendment to it or whatever. So it's not perfect, of course. They're humans, so they're prone to error, but it's a great way of getting a second opinion. What's unfortunately occurred over time is because veterinarians, especially the newer graduates, are not comfortable with reading x-rays, for example, and certainly not CAT scan and MRI, but just the basic x-rays, which is a very common modality. They are reliant 100% of the time, it seems, on the board certified radiologist, and which is fine, nothing wrong with getting another opinion on stuff. But the problem is sometimes that delay in trying to get the radiologist to interpret their x-rays also delays the patient. And if it delays the patient treatment or next steps, that's a problem for the animal, because sometimes these radiology reports can be done in 15 minutes. Some can take hours to get done. Hey, Daniel Brown. Hi, how are you today? And good morning, New Zealand. Welcome to Yes, good for my friend. Hey, Daniel. Good to see you too, man. Thanks for joining. It's good to see you. Any questions, let me know. So So the goal of the radiologist is important. However, we've been using them and overusing them over years now, and that's created a shortage, like everything else in the field. So now there's not enough radiologists to go around, um, and you have longer wait times. And of course, artificial intelligence then came about in an effort to expedite the process, so basically replace human beings completely or use human beings as a backup plan or a checkpoint just to make sure everything looks good. But AI is supposed to help with that. And so far, I have not been impressed with the AI systems for reading radiographs. They are very what do you say, like they're all just templates. It seems they just have a bunch of information there that speaks to the animal in very general perspective, and they're not very nuanced. Um, so it's just a bunch of gibberish that anybody can look up any textbook. It's not really helpful, in my opinion. Now I'm sure it'll get better over time, and I'm sure there are some systems that are much better than that. Um, but if we're having to have a human radiologist proofread the AI's interpretation, then kind of defeats the purpose. It is quicker, I would say, from my own experience of reviewing stuff, that it's quicker to have a specialist review and critique something that was already written by somebody else. But still, you kind of just want to do it from the beginning. In the past, radiologists had their own templates anyway, and they probably still do. And they would just modify it for the nuances, the uniqueness of that specific imaging. But a lot of this stuff repeats, so it makes sense to have templates. The problem with the AI one is that they're so not personalized. It's just a bunch of just gibberish on a page, and it may be accurate for generality's sake, but not specifics to the patient, which is what the veterinarian wants. They want specifics for the patient. They want to know what the next steps are, what they should do next. And so we have a lot of work to do in that regard. I'm sure over the next 5 years, if not sooner, it'll improve drastically. But for right now, it's an okay alternative, especially if you have to rely on that and you can't have access to a human. It's not a bad alternative in that regard. However, the real solution here is to have our veterinarians be trained better with reading radiographs, at least radiographs. They don't need to necessarily read CAT scans and MRIs unless they're going to be in a facility that does that, but most general practitioners are not. And so they need to just be good at reading X-rays. That's the main thing. If they can just do that, it'll save them a whole world. Or ones where you just really need a second opinion for whatever reason. The other problem is pet owners are so litigious these days, and they only get worse over time, that a lot of veterinarians will get the radiology interpretation regardless of how easy that X-ray or how straightforward that X-ray is. And they do that to protect themselves legally, which is stupid. But I understand why they need to. When I say stupid, I mean it's dumb that pet owners have caused enough fear amongst veterinarians, and there's lack of support from veterinary medical boards for these vets that they have to now send everything to radiology, which is just dumb. Very dumb, waste of time, waste of resources, and not to mention it's not free. When we submit radiographs for an interpretation by the radiologist has to get paid for this, and the practice is going to charge you, the pet owner, to send those X-rays. So the fact that pet owners are becoming more litigious, and also so because they're becoming more litigious, they're creating more anxiety and doubt in their veterinarians, and they're also adding more to the bill because they have to pay for the radiology interpretation, and they're plugging up the system where the radiologist, who should be really looking at unique cases, weird cases, complex cases, have to look at stupid routine cases that your veterinarian is more than capable of interpreting. And it's all because they have to protect themselves legally. So this type of defensive medicine is not good for the veterinarian as an individual, and it's not good for the profession. But that's where we are now. So that's the gist of veterinary radiologists. Now, you as a pet owner will not be able, in the vast majority of cases, actually speak to the radiologist. They are usually not consumer facing. They don't talk to clients, and they talk to other veterinary professionals. And so, you can ask your vet, can I talk to a radiologist? The answer is no. There's absolutely no way they're going to do that. And that's one of the perks of being a radiologist, is that they can focus their entirety on the veterinary medicine aspect, and they don't need to discuss anything with non-medical personnel. So they're also protected by the laws for any sort of misdiagnosis or whatever, because they are, I don't necessarily agree with that, but they are only part of the picture, of the whole clinical picture. They have no bearing on the patient's previous history, what the patient's current status is, what the owner can do for future diagnostics or treatments. So they're just a piece of the puzzle, and so they're fairly well protected in terms of losing their license, or having any sort of medical errors in their interpretation. So maybe good, maybe not. I don't know. Anyway, that's the summary of radiologists. Thanks, Daniel Brown, for joining. Thanks, everybody who watches on the playback. And I will look forward to being back tomorrow, Wednesday, August 28th, for another tantalizing live stream on some other topic that everybody cares about. Take care. Bye.